Hello everybody, how are you this Friday evening UK time? My name is Carl, you're welcome to this webinar being hosted by the TEFL org. I'm here to try and answer any questions you have, primarily about teaching exam classes within the field of teaching English as a foreign language. But I'm also here to answer any questions you might have about becoming a TEFL teacher. Or if you're already a TEFL teacher, any other questions you might have, let me see if I can answer it. And why can I answer them? Well, hopefully I can answer them because I have been teaching for a good few years. I've been lucky enough to teach in many places around the world, including China, Japan, Sri Lanka, Iraq. Before COVID, I was teaching a lot in Spain and Italy. I also work as a teacher trainer here for the TEFL org. So if you do any of the practical courses in Northern Ireland, I would hope I will be the one that does the weekend course with you. I also work as an examiner, so hopefully I can answer any questions you might have. Please say hello to me in the comments if you're out there. Let me know where you are in the world. I'm in Belfast, Northern Ireland. But please, I love to hear where everybody is. And if you want to get your questions in early, they'll be some of the first that I answer after I give this presentation about exam prep. Okay, so hello to everyone there. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's get started talking about exam preparation. Okay, so let me first of all get the PowerPoint up. There we go. Hello everybody. Hello. So exam preparation. The first thing I want to talk about is why teach exam prep classes. Why is it a good idea for you as teachers to teach exam preparation classes? The first thing I would say is they're very much in demand by students. So if you are trying to set yourself up as an independent tutor, an independent teacher where you find your own students, where you do your own marketing, that kind of thing, if you're looking for a niche in terms of the examining, in terms of the teaching, that you do, exam preparation classes are always a good one. They are pretty much in demand by students and they can be quite rewarding financially. Okay, so some of the teachers that I know that have set themselves up as independent teachers who find their own students do get quite a lot of students because students can be willing to pay a bit for this. Okay, so it's definitely something that's worthwhile thinking about. There also, if you don't want to set yourself up as an independent teacher, you can sometimes see jobs being advertised that are for exam teachers only. So you will see jobs being advertised as we require an IELTS teacher, or we require a Cambridge English teacher, or we require a Trinity exam prep teacher. So it does, if you start to think about doing some exam prep classes, it does allow you to apply for some jobs that you might see that are specifically for exam preparation teachers. Okay, thank you everybody. I can see all the hellos coming in. I will definitely get to your questions as soon as I can. Someone in the Philippines, that's lovely. Georgia, oh, I love Georgia. I'm guessing that's Georgia in with Tbilisi, the capital. I love that place. And hello from Russia and all those places. Hello everyone. I'm going to get to your questions in a minute. So definitely these are some of the things. So it can be good financially, can also be good for your job aspects if you do go down the fact of trying to become more of a specialist in exam preparation. Okay, just going to talk a little bit here about the different types of English as foreign language exams, because there are lots of different ones out there, and the ones that I'm about to show you are not the only ones. So just be aware of that. These aren't the only ones. There are definitely more out there. So IELTS is probably the most popular one out there in terms of the number of students that take it. That's the International English Language Testing System. Used a lot for people who want to go to university in America, Australia, the UK, Ireland, that kind of thing. Can also be used for immigration from these countries. Okay, so IELTS is a popular one that's out there. Another popular one, it's very popular sort of around East Asia, I think, is TOEFL. Okay, now I have never personally taught TOEFL. It's not something I know much about. Please, if you've been a TOEFL teacher or you've got any experience in that, please put it in the chat. Let us know what you think about teaching TOEFL. Okay. Another one which I have quite a fair bit of experience of teaching is Trinity exams. So they are different in terms of IELTS because that way it's like a pass or fail exam, whereas IELTS is the students take it and get given a final grade. So it's slightly different. Also, the listening aspect is different from IELTS, that kind of thing. So Trinity is also popular. Another one that was really popular, it's sort of gone less popularity, but still is used out there quite a bit, is the PTE Academic. This is used a lot for people who want to learn about academic English and who want to be able to show they're good at academic English. And then the other ones, and there's I think 3 different exams in this one, is the Cambridge suite of exams, which again run from different levels. I've not taught Cambridge. I've not worked as an examiner for Cambridge, so it's not something I know much about. So please put in the chat if you have taught or you have even studied Cambridge. Let us know. Then there are countless more. Okay, so you get specialized ones, for example, in legal English. You can get specialized ones in business English. You can get specialized ones in academic English, a bit like PTE, but there's others as well. So there's lots of different exams that are out there. Okay, so don't just limit yourself to those ones. But however, I would say those are probably the most popular ones around the world. Thanks for the questions, guys. I'm definitely going to be getting around to them in a minute. Please put your question in the chat so I can get around to answering it. Now, which exam you teach, and this does depend if you're going to be teaching online or whether you're going to go and teach abroad yourself. The location does actually make quite a big difference. Okay, so different exams tend to be favored by different countries. So that's important. So if you have a big urge to go and teach in Spain or Italy, for example, the exam that you would teach would probably be different from the exam preparation classes you might teach in India, for example, or you might teach in somewhere like Malaysia. That's because historically some exams have been more important there, and like generally it tends to have been whichever exam board got into that country first tends to be the one that's the most popular there. Also, there's aspects of marketing, that kind of thing, and ones that are favored by the schools there. So it does depend where you're going to go and teach in the world, what exam you would teach. The other thing is, get this into your mind for teaching online if you're going to find your own students, because it's pointless spending money on advertising. For example, you're a Pearson teacher, you want to be a Pearson English teacher, and you spend a lot of money on your marketing in Spain and Italy. It's not the most popular exam there. So because of that, you might be wasting money. So you need to sort of know which exam is popular in the country that you're targeting, or the country that you're going to be living in. Okay. So for example, Southern Europe, Cambridge and Trinity are really popular down sort of around Spain, Italy way. They're quite popular in India. Trinity is quite popular in India. They're becoming increasingly popular in China, but definitely around Southern Europe, Cambridge and Trinity are the big ones that are important. And in East Asia, where obviously there's quite big numbers, there's a lot of people learning English, TOEFL and IELTS tends to be quite popular. Somewhere like South America, IELTS is used quite a bit. Trinity is also used quite a bit in Southern America. So just think about your advertising, where you're going to advertise to, and think about the country where you're going to work in. That's probably the exam that you'll teach. Okay. COVID has affected this. How? Because there were some exams before COVID that were fully online, and obviously when COVID shut down personal contact, it meant that people started using the exams that were fully online. And some of the bigger exams have been a bit slower in terms of getting the exams online. Okay, so might be worth doing some research as to what exams are popular in the COVID times. Okay, good. Thank you for staying with me. Definitely I thank you for all these lovely afternoons and hellos from everybody. Definitely going to get to your questions. If you've got any questions at all about teaching English as a foreign language, please put them in the chat and I will get to them after I finish this PowerPoint. Okay, so first teaching steps. If I was a new teacher and I was going to teach exam preparation classes, first thing I would tell a teacher to do is to take one yourself. And I've put the take there in little commas because I'm not saying pay for one. Don't go to the British Council and pay to take an IELTS test because it's quite expensive. Yeah, so I really wouldn't recommend you do that. What I would suggest you do is find a practice test online or find a practice test in a textbook. Take it yourself, but be a student. What does the student have to do? Do the papers in the order that the students have to do them. Okay, so if they do the listening one first, do the listening. If they do the reading one first, do the reading. If they do the writing one last, do the writing one last, or whatever order it could be in, and stick to the timings of each of them. Okay, so you know, for IELTS they tend to do it all in one day. It's quite a long day for the students, for the candidates, so just you know, do that as well. Put yourself in their place as if you were a student. Why is that important? Because you need to know what they're going to go through when they actually take the exam. You've got to be able to show that you have that experience to guide them. Okay. Then you need to work out how it is marked. Now, how the exams are marked is different for every type of exam. So are they marked like with a tick and a cross, so it's like 1 point or no points? Do they get negatively marked? So if they guess too many on multiple choice, for example, is it a negative mark? You've got to work all this out. Google is your friend. Google will give you information about how those are marked. Why is this important for a teacher? Because it's one of the questions that students will ask you. They will say to you, Carl, how is this marked? Carl, how is this graded? And you need to be able to answer that, because exam teaching is quite often about teaching the exam as well as teaching the language that's involved in the exam. Okay. How it is marked is quite easy for reading and listening, but it can be quite difficult to work out how it is marked for speaking and sorry, that should say writing. I'm so sorry. That should say writing. For speaking and writing. I'm sorry, that mistake. It's difficult for speaking and writing, the productive skills. Okay. Why is that difficult? Because it's like an objective thing. The examiner would need to make a decision about the grade and the person that they've got in front of you, or the text that they are reading for writing and speaking for the productive skills. For listening and reading, it's a bit easier. They can mark it right, they can mark it wrong. However, for speaking and writing, they have to look at the paper and then they have to decide on a grade. Okay, so but there is information out there about how the exam you decide to teach, or how the exam the school you work for has told you to teach, is marked. Okay, so definitely look at that. Okay. These speaking and writing, quite often they come down to something called band descriptors, and every exam has its own band descriptor. That is a piece of paper that the examiner will have in front of them, and from looking at that piece of paper, they can make a decision about the person they've got in front of you. So they would have a decision. They would say, okay, can this person speak without a grammatical error? Okay, then they can think, yes, that person can. Then we'll give them a high grade. So look at the band descriptors for speaking and writing and see what they say. Or is it a pass-fail type exam? If it's a pass-fail exam, then you've got to think about what do they need to do to pass, what will happen if they do this and then they fail. Okay, so you need to know this information, work out how it is marked. Okay, thanks guys for those questions. I'm definitely coming to them in a second. I've got a couple more slides left. All right, and any questions about this, please put them in the chat. Let's do a little bit about exam skills, because quite often as a teacher, you're not teaching, as I said, language in an exam preparation class. You're teaching the exam skills. And every exam has to be, has its own structure. So the listening section on Trinity is different from the listening section on Cambridge. So you need to work out how have those exams, what would the students have to do, what is the structure, what is the things they have to do, the steps they have to do, and then because you will need to make them prepared for that, your students. Okay, students need to work out how to deal with each question type quite often. So within a reading exam, there will be different questions. So you might have a fill the blank question, you might have a multiple choice question, you might have some sort of summarize question, you might have some sort of matching within the text, matching the paragraphs type question. Each of them requires a different technique. Each of them needs you to have a certain way to deal with it if you're a student, and you would have to teach that. So exam technique is just as important. You tell them, okay, you tell them the exam, you tell them the question type, and you practice that question type, and you practice the strategy, because the strategies are really important. Okay, good. Google and YouTube are very helpful for this. You will not be the first person to ever teach that exam. There's not been any really new ones coming out. I have never been, in 20 odd years, I've never been the first one to teach that exam. You will find YouTube videos, you will find web pages that tell you about the exam techniques needed for each question, for each exam. So do a bit of work on Google. You can look at the exam techniques that some people say are good. You can maybe borrow those and teach them within your classes. Okay. But there's also language teaching. By language teaching, I mean vocabulary and grammar teaching. Okay, so the tests have vocab that is associated with them. Now, the exam boards generally don't tell you what vocabulary that is. They might tell you the category. So they might say, okay, for this level, they have to be good at speaking about animals. This is a low-level exam. For a high-level exam, they have to be quite good at, I don't know, predicting, for example. And, you know, the vocabulary and the grammar structures that go with it. So there is certain vocabulary that is used within the exams. Again, Google is your friend, okay? If you really want to make sure you know exactly which one it is, think about textbooks. Have a look, find a Trinity textbook, find an IELTS textbook, look at the types of vocabulary that are being taught within those textbooks. They will help you to teach the students, because they will be good textbooks that have been used quite a bit. Okay, look at textbooks for help. Grammar within exams is often about two things: the accuracy, how accurate the students are when they produce the grammar, and are they using a range of grammar. So, for example, is everything in the present simple when they speak? Is everything in the present simple when they write? Not a big range, not going to get a very high mark for grammar. So think about introducing new tenses, new structures to them, but also working on their accuracy as well, making sure that they don't do too many mistakes. All right. There are other aspects towards these exams that are important, such as within writing that you'd have to teach paragraphing. Within speaking, you'd have to teach phonology, making sure that their pronunciation is good and they have good intonation, this kind of thing. You've also, for the reading and the listening, quite often got to make sure that their spelling is important. Their coherence is important in writing and also in speaking. Fluency. So there's lots of different aspects that you would have to teach beyond vocabulary and grammar. Okay, good. Final thoughts from me before I start passing on to the questions, and I can see some lovely ones coming in. Exam prep classes I think are quite enjoyable. I have always quite enjoyed teaching them because I think personally, and maybe I'm a bit of a nerd like this, that they are interesting topics. You learn about and you hear about different, you hear like in the reading text that you'll do in the class and in the listenings that you might do, you might find information that you never knew about because they tend to be of a slightly higher level than some of the general English textbooks. Okay, so I think they're quite enjoyable. I've learned a few things from them. Okay, they can also be quite life-changing for students. So if you're teaching an exam prep class and those students do a good job and those students get the grade that they need, that can often mean for certain exams that they get to move countries, they get to improve their jobs, they get to go for a new job, they get to go to university. And it's nice to hear from students that this happens to. It's nice to see people that you've taught and have you helped further their life. Okay, it can be life-changing for them, maybe not life-changing for you, but it can be rewarding for you. All right, however, can be quite hard work. You do often with exams, especially when there's writing involved, get quite a big marking load. So you might have 20 students in a class, you might need to mark 20 relatively long essays that go towards it. So be aware that often with exam prep classes, the marking is more than in general English classes. Okay, can also be quite pressurized. You might get a group of students that come to you and they'll say to you, look, I can only afford to do this test once. I've got to pass it this time. I need to do this in order to get my new job by this date. If I don't do it by this date, I'm in trouble, or I won't be able to have another chance, something like this. So there might be pressure on them, so they can also put pressure on you. Okay, so just be aware that it can be a little bit important. And also managing the student and school expectations is difficult. You might get somebody come to you and who's quite a low level, and you think, okay, they're about elementary, maybe a pre-intermediate level speaker, but they feel like within the next 3 or 4 months they want to pass a high level exam, and they think within 3 months you can get them there, and it can be difficult. You have to maybe be a little bit honest with them, all right, especially if they've got other jobs and they've got other commitments. Also, school expectations can be a lot to put onto a teacher. The school can expect you to get a whole class through. They expect you to have 100% pass rate, something like that, when it's almost impossible to do that. So just be aware that you've got to find ways to manage student expectations and school expectations. And I just find the best way is to be honest. Don't promise something that you can't deliver. Right, I can see some questions coming in. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening to me on that presentation. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing that screen and get through some of these questions. So thank you. Hello to everyone. Zimbabwe or in Africa. I had a good time in Zimbabwe many years ago. It's a great place. Bahrain. Wow, that's really far. No need to say thank you, everybody. Linda Blackburn in Reading. I'm originally from Reading. I haven't been back there for years though. Right, thank you very much. John, hello. So are there exams for specific specialist areas? For example, legal English, psychology English, computer English? Yes, there are. There's definitely within those 3 that you've put there, ones in legal English. There's definitely special, I've forgotten the name of it right now, I'd have to Google it. But there are special exams for people that want to be able to prove their level of legal English. Why is there that exam? Because, for example, someone, lawyers have to quite often cross boundaries for international law, that kind of thing. So they have to be able to prove that they know their legal English words. Okay, so it's important. I've not heard of one for psychology English or computer English. That sounds like that would sort of fall under the umbrella of English as an academic subject. And there's definitely academic English exams out there. There's loads of them. Other ones, there's travel ones, there's exams in business, there's exams in medical English, that kind of thing. So these are definitely exams that there are out there. Okay, and well done on having your second jab as well, John. Thank you. Jack, hello. How do you set prices for courses? So I'm gonna courses is obviously different, Jack. So I don't know what you mean by courses. Do you mean like if a student was to buy like a 10 lesson course from you? I do in my private website, I give them a bit of a discount if they do that and they pay for that up front. I give them I think it's 10% off for if they buy 10 classes up front, something like that. If I to set my hourly rate, I do a couple of things. Firstly, I work out what I'm happy to work for, because there's no point working for less than you are happy to work for. I have seen some teaching jobs that are below the minimum wage in the UK. So I obviously wouldn't do that, because I'd be better off taking a driving job locally or something like that. So you got to find a rate of pay that you're happy for, Jack, wherever you are in the world. And you've also got to find a rate of pay that people will pay. So if you are advertising in, for example, South Asia, where there's not a huge amount of money, people aren't going to pay it. So there's no point you setting your price at £30 or £40 an hour and advertising there. You need to find students that are happy to pay for what you are doing. Okay, I hope that helps you out there, Jack. Does really depend where you are in the world. People in London probably won't work for the same rate that people in, I don't know, Andalusia might work for. Okay. Hello everyone. Yep, Cambridge is definitely popular in Spain, Robert. Very good. Caroline, I'm just going to highlight that one. I don't think that's a question to me, but it's just a question to show, because I think that's a really good one. Yeah. What do the examiners want from you is an important thing to teach the students. You know, what are the examiners looking for? Because what they are looking for might not be a specific level of English, so to say. It might be something like they can hit a specific level in that test band that they're trying to get. Okay, so that's a good one. Definitely say to your students, what do the examiners actually want from you, Caroline? Thank you. Stevie Jade, hello. How can you become trained to help with IELTS or Cambridge exams? Are there courses you can take specifically for this to become certified in the exam prep? Yeah, so there isn't like from the, there isn't, like for example, Trinity don't have courses where they say become an official Trinity teacher for the Trinity exams. Trinity offer teacher training courses, but that's something different. Okay, and the same with IELTS, that kind of thing, right? You don't need to be certified in the exam prepped specifically from those examination boards, Stevie Jade. I hope that answers that first bit. What I would suggest you to do, though, if you want to know more, and if you also want to be able to show on your CV that you are looking to become an exam prep teacher, because this is a good thing to show the people that you work for, is I would recommend you do something like an extra teacher training module in teaching exam prep classes. So for example, here at the TEFL org, you might have already done your 120 hour course, okay, and you want to move into exam prep classes, that kind of thing. What you might want to do is something like this 40-hour teaching exam preparation class. So this is an extra module where we would teach you and we would train you into how to teach exams. Okay, so introduction, for example, here to English language exams, how to teach them, practice activities, exam preparation with resources, all this kind of thing is covered. That might be something that you want to think about. You don't need to do an official course about it, what you would probably want to do is do an add-on module to your basic teaching qualification. I hope that answers your question there. Good, thank you. Let's go to the next question. Ellen, hello. Do I know what tests are popular in Portugal? I think Cambridge are popular in Portugal. If anybody else knows, please put it in the chat. But I'm pretty sure that the most popular exams in Portugal are Cambridge exams. Probably, yeah. I would think so. Okay. Ellen, no one's ever asked me that. You put me on the spot, but I'm pretty sure it is Cambridge exams. Okay. Caroline, thank you very much for putting that advice in there. That's fantastic. Yeah, it is a skill. Some people could be really good at taking exams but not have very good English, and they get through the exam by doing the exam well, if that makes sense. Okay. But exam skills is definitely the way forward. Dominic, if you want to know a little bit about the passing marks, each exam has different passing marks. So I can't, I could go into loads of detail, but definitely you have to look up the exam that you're going to take or the exam that you're going to teach and work out what the passing, how it is marked, basically. Brenda, hello. Can I expand on strategies are important? Is it a case of trial? Right. So, yeah. So in the writing exam, there's some strategies, for example, in the timing. So each exam might have 2 questions. One exam might have 10 questions in the writing. Are all of those exams worth the same? Are all of those questions, worth the same amount of marks? If some are worth more marks than the others, I always tell my students to do the ones that are worth more marks first. Because what's the point in leaving those till last and then not having enough time to do them? Also, you might want to tell them, okay, if you're still writing that first question after 6 minutes, move on to the next one. So that's something like that for the writing. With the reading, same thing. You might have different types of questions. So as I said in the PowerPoint, like the fill the blanks, the way that a student should attack a fill the blanks question is different from how a student should attack a matching question, okay, or a multiple choice question. So you would have to work out the strategy that they do. Do they skim? Do they scan? Do they start in the middle? Are the questions in order? All this kind of thing you might need to learn yourself in order to teach them the exam strategies. Brenda, if that doesn't answer your question, please put in the chat. Ellen, hello. Are there specific tests for medical English, especially for billing and coding? I've got no idea about billing and coding. That sounds a bit like accountancy, is it? I've got no idea. That I might be totally wrong. There is a medical English exam, and I'm just looking it up. That is called the OET test. OET. Okay, so that is a medical English exam. That is what nurses and doctors quite often take if they're going to move countries. However, whether that covers billing and coding, I don't even know. All right, okay. Caroline, hello. You work through a franchise. That's interesting. I didn't know that they. That's a good one. You don't know what the markup is, but your take-home pay is £25 an hour. It seems pretty fair. Thank you. So that's in reply to Jack. Yeah, I mean, look, it does depend on where you are in the world, but that seems like not a bad rate of pay there. Okay. I think that sounds like a good one. Guys, please keep the questions coming in. Any questions you have at all about exam preps or teaching English as a foreign language, let me see if I can help you. Ellen, oh right, okay, they are ICD codes and CPT codes, right? Okay, so that is codes that cover specific parts of being in a exam. Sorry, being in a ward. I don't really know what that is. I'm completely making that up, Ellen. I've got no idea. I don't know what they are. The OET test is definitely the one, I think, for you that you need to look up. Okay. Dominic, I'm not sure I can help you with that question about difference between human resources and finance marketing. I'm not really sure. So, guys, look, exam is exam preparation classes are definitely something that you need to think about, okay, that in terms of teaching. Because if you want to be your own independent teacher, it's definitely something that students are willing to pay a little bit more for. It's also something that students might be willing to sort of pay a premium for a short period of time. So for example, they might think, okay, right, they'll come to me and I will get them through this exam, but I might only have them for 5, 6, I don't know, 10 lessons, something like that. But they might be able to pay a bit more for that kind of thing. If they pay me a bit more, then that will give me a bit more money. You might not have them for a long time, but it's definitely something that they are willing to pay a little bit extra for. Okay. If there's no more questions out there, I might just say no. I don't, Alan, have I missed any questions, or did I get through them all? I think I've got through them all. Good. Okay. Well, I think I've got through the questions. If there are no more questions, I'm just going to talk us a little bit through our website here, the TEFL.org website, and I'm going to, if you want to know more information about these kind of things, okay. If you want to know a little bit more about these things, I really do recommend you go onto our website and look at the blog page here. And I don't know if you can make that a bit bigger. If you go into the blog page there, you can do something like on here, you can type in exam, okay? So just tefl.org/blog blogs, and there's some lovely pages here about how we teach the exam classes. There's more information there about teaching the exam prep modules, okay? There's definitely something there. There's also people that give information about that, so it's definitely something that you might want to think about. It's also very useful about setting yourself up as an online teacher. If you put into the blog post there something like how to teach about an online without an experience, also, you know, how to teach online as a non-native speaker. There's lots and lots of information on there about how to teach online. So it's definitely something that's worth looking at. If you want more information than I've covered today, if you go to tefl.org/blog and you type in any of the queries that you have there. Okay. A couple of questions just come in there. So great. Just before we finish, let me see if I can answer those ones. Robert, hello. Do I do writing exam classes? You've done them but found them boring, so don't focus too much on classes like this. Most of my students come through for writing exams. It's my number one money spinner, where I make money independently as a teacher. Why? Because it's quite often writing is the one that they fail the most. Because the one that you fail, the one that they fail the most is often the one that they're willing to pay a bit of a premium for to pass. Okay, so I quite like doing them, Robert. I think they're quite a good way to get students through and quite a nice way to make a couple of quid. So I definitely like them, Robert. But if you don't, that's fine. But it's definitely something that I like doing myself. Okay. Joanne, thank you. You're taking the 120-hour TEFL course at the moment. Congratulations. You're wondering how will you remember it all when teaching. Interesting. Right, so any tips? Yeah, my tip as a new teacher is you don't need to know everything right at the start. Our courses are fantastic. They are accredited. They have really good information. They're really good at preparing teachers to teach in the world. But there are more advanced ones. That's why we sell things like the add-on modules, because we don't want to overburden students and overburden teachers all at the start. So there is always more to learn. What I would suggest to you, Joanne, as a new teacher, is just take it lesson by lesson, maybe week by week. Think, what are you going to teach that week? Refer back to that kind of thing. So this week you're going to be teaching the present continuous. Lovely. Okay, so just think only about the present continuous. Don't worry about the present perfect. Don't worry about the past perfect, anything like that. This week you're going to be teaching writing skills. Good. Concentrate on writing skills. Tomorrow you're just going to be doing some listening. Just spend the day planning your listening questions, all right? Yes, there's loads in our courses, but they're always going to be there. You get the information is going to be in your head. Once, just take it step by step and you'll be fine, and refer back to the textbook. You can't keep it all in your head. Okay. Kim, hello. You read something today about needing a CELTA to teach at a community college, but they're very expensive. Okay, so what you would need to, right, so what I would suggest to you, I'm guessing if you're talking about teaching in America, what I would suggest to you, Kim, is email the college and see what qualifications they accept. CELTA is quite a high level, expensive course. They may, and I would say probably should, accept our 120-hour course. So before you take the plunge and you go for a CELTA, before you take the plunge and go for one of our courses, if you've seen a specific college you want to work for, you've seen a specific job you want, email them and say what you want. So if you put that into teaching in the UK, fine, yeah, I would email the college that you want to work at and see what they will accept. If they accept a 120-hour course, perfect. If they want a CELTA, is there some wiggle room in that? Just email them and say, look, hi, I have this certification. Will that be enough to work for you? Okay. Don't, just go for it. There's nothing that's going to stop you. If they say no, then that's it. But if they say yes, happy days. You're happy. Okay. Costas, hello. Any advice for non-native teacher who wants to teach abroad? Yeah. I would say, first of all, go for it, Costas. One of the advice things that I would say to you is work out what do they think a non-native teacher is. Because if you've got quite a high level of English, if you can prove that in an exam, do they take that as a native level? So that's the first thing I would say to you, Costas. So look at the countries you want to go to, look at some of the jobs that are being advertised in those countries, see if they will accept you with your level of English equivalent as a native speaker. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing I would say is don't give up straight away. If there's nothing in the job description about native speakers, non-native speakers, apply. You might get rejected, unfortunately, because you're a non-native speaker, which I think is crazy, personally. I really don't see the logic here. A good teacher, whether you're native or non-native, is exactly the same. But what I would email them. Go for it, Costas. Just go for it, okay? You find that some schools want specific native speakers. Okay, why? Probably because their marketing is marketed that way. I think it's wrong. The other thing that I would recommend is look for places a bit off the beaten track. So, for example, if you want to go work in China, lots of competition to go work in Beijing. Lots of competition amongst teachers for jobs to work in Shenzhen, in Shanghai. If you really want to work there, okay, you got to apply and hope that you get accepted. But what I would suggest to you is maybe look inland a bit. Look at somewhere like Kunming, beautiful place. Look like somewhere like Xi'an, beautiful place. We'll go work somewhere like that where there's not so many people applying and where you might be able to get some work, because if there's less competition. Similar thing in Spain, for example, people want to work in Barcelona, they want to work in Madrid. Work outside those places where there's less competition for jobs, where the schools might be more willing to lower their requirements. Okay, I hope that helps you, Costas. Good luck. Maxine, you've got the practical English usage by Michael. Hoping to start with that as you've just started 120-hour course at TEFL. Will that be sufficient to start with? So are you talking about to learn grammar yourself, Maxine? If you're looking to learn grammar yourself, that's quite a nice one, or learn vocabulary, which is what that book also covers. So that's a good one. However, if you're going to do one of our 120-hour courses, you don't need to go out and buy a specialized textbook. We give you the materials on our course. So there's absolutely no need at all for you to go and buy a specific textbook, spend that money on top of the 120-hour course. Okay. Thank you, everybody. To teach grammar properly. I don't think you need that book necessarily to teach grammar properly. That is a good book as a reference. A better way is just to learn how to teach grammar, the methodology between teaching grammar. Okay, that book that you've got there is aimed at students. What I would suggest to you is you try and find a book that is aimed at teachers to teach grammar. But if you're going to do our 120-hour course, you don't need to go out and buy a textbook. Just use our materials. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I think that could be all the questions today. So thanks so much for tuning in with us. If you are looking to learn how to become a teacher, if you're looking to do a 120-hour course, I really do recommend our classes. So just go to our courses, go to our website, TEFL.org. There's a big rundown here about the TEFL courses that we offer, the different types of ones that might suit you, whether they're fully online, some are practical ones. As the world is opening up a bit, we're also running weekend courses where you'll spend the weekend with someone like me to practically teach. If you've got any questions, we have a chat with us function down there. You can also send us a message on our Facebook page. Definitely we will get back to you for sure. Now, we are not the only TEFL provider out there. We know that there are other courses out there. What I would suggest to you before you take the plunge and do a TEFL course is you look at the accreditation that these courses have. We are accredited by companies that have nothing to do with us. They just come and they check people like me. They come and check our courses, they check our materials, and they decide whether we are of a good quality. Accreditation is important. You can, we're happy to put these seals on there and show you who it is that accredits us. And you can go Google them, you can get more information. You can see that we are a legitimately highly accredited company. There are companies out there, I'm not going to name them, which the accreditation isn't quite as transparent. So definitely put some time into that accreditation. Why? Because when you apply for jobs, they will look at the certificate you have and see whether it is a highly accredited one. If you already have your certificate with us, fantastic, well done. We have our TEFL jobs section. Go on there. This is our job center. You can look at things that whether you need a degree on there, jobs that need a degree, whether the countries that you go for, whether they're summer camp, temporary jobs, all that kind of thing. There's some filters, loads of jobs that will come up here that you can see down here. These are all jobs listed with us, ones that you might want to apply for. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for spending this Friday afternoon with me. I hope you enjoy teaching exam classes as much as I have around the world. I've had some great time spending teaching exam classes, so I really do recommend that they are a good thing for you to get involved in. One of the best teaching I've done. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.